What are we discussing on today's Locked On Diamondbacks podcast? Adrian Del Castillo continues to crush as the D-backs bounce back against the Miami Marlins. And is it too late for Arizona to catch 90 wins?
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. I'm your host of this podcast, Millard Thomas. I'm a multimedia journalist and I'm a graphic designer, so please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there, you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. If you want to see more content by me, please follow me on Twitter at CareerThomas24 for the personal account. Look up Locked On Diamondbacks on Twitter, or look up Millard.Thomas123 on Instagram for the personal Insta, or look up Locked On Diamondbacks on Instagram as well. For today's podcast, we'll be talking about the D-backs getting back to their winning ways against the Marlins, players who need to step up with Ketel Marte out, and can the D-backs still eclipse 90 wins this season? Thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms, so please continue to tell all your friends. And one of those platforms is YouTube. Please hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube. All right. Let's get back into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Let's talk about the D-backs getting back to their winning ways against the Miami Marlins. The D-backs have eclipsed the 70-win mark now this season, and they did it in a power fashion with 3 home runs to power themselves against the Marlins. This was more of a game about power and a game about patience, because overall the D-backs were out hit in this game. This was actually a game where the Marlins had 12 hits. The D-backs had only 8, but the D-backs put up 9 runs because they used power and patience to cruise to a victory in this one. 3 home runs from Adrian Del Castillo, Jock Peterson, and Jake McCarthy along to go with 6 walks, only 4 strikeouts. The D-backs offensively have a good day. Now, were they only 3 for 11 runner in scoring position? Yes. Were they out hit? Yes, but they had the big hits in the moments that mattered, and that's what put the D-backs over the top in this game. Adrian Del Castillo, the rookie, continues to crush. Since getting called up, he has 14 RBIs. That is the second most for a player through his first 9 games in MLB history, tied for the second most in MLB history through a player's first 9 games. So he's been incredible. He had the huge grand slam in this game. He's a guy that hails from the Miami area, and he looks so comfortable being back at home. 103.6 miles per hour off the bat. Would have only been a home run in 19 of the 30 stadiums. Would not have been a grand slam in Chase Field, but he continues to have such a solid approach at the plate. And to be honest, as a D-backs fan, do you not feel super confident whenever ADC is at the plate, whenever there's runners in scoring position? Like, so far in the big moments of a ball game, runners in scoring position or high leverage moments, like ADC has already won the trust of D-backs Nation over with his stellar play to begin his major league career. His slash line, 333, 405, 667. Whenever I see him coming up to the plate and it's a run scoring opportunity, I have faith in ADC that he's going to come through for the D-backs, and especially if it's a run scoring opportunity, 9th inning, like, yeah, he's going to come through for the D-backs. Like, he has 3 home runs now in his career, and think about all 3 of them. The first one, walk-off home run. The second one, 2-run game-tying shot in the 9th inning. And then the third home run, grand slam in your return home. He has been fantastic for Arizona this season, and I think when Moreno comes back, Jose Herrera has just lost his job. Jake the Rig McCarthy continues to just be absolutely spectacular at the plate. I mean, it's insane to think about that Jake McCarthy now his slash line on the year 309, 383, 457 like entering the year our expectations for Jake versus what he's done all season long. I mean, he hit a no doubter in today's game. And this is someone that we always talk about. We like him. We think he could have a good season offensively in terms of contact ability, getting a lot of singles, maybe some gap doubles. But we knew power was always going to be the weakness of Jake McCarthy. But that one he hit today, absolute no doubter by him. 101.3 miles per hour off the bat would have been a home run in all 30 ballparks. He crushed it, and he had himself a very fantastic July where he batted 345, 904 OPS in the month of July. Well, August has been even better. Entering today's game, 382 average, 1036 OPS in the month of August with 17 RBIs. That was entering the first game against Miami. So those numbers are only going to get better for Jake McCarthy. And he's not the only one who had a fantastic July and then has gone even better in the month of August because the third guy who hit a home run in today's game, Jock Peterson, also having a better August than July when he was having himself a fantastic July. Look at the numbers now for Jock Peterson. This is not just a great season by D-back standards. He's having himself a career year, currently career high in OPS, career high in average. He won't touch his career high in home runs, which is 36, but his second highest total in home runs is 26, and he did that in 151 games with the Dodgers back as a rookie. Like typically, whenever he's hit like 25 home runs, he's played at least 137 games. He's already at 20 home runs this season, and he's done it in 103 games. We might be seeing the greatest. We might be seeing Jock Peterson's career year, and I definitely want the D-backs to re-sign him this offseason. July, 1041 OPS, 269 average. August, entering today's game, 351 average, 1192 OPS in the month of August. He has also been fantastic. The power for the D-backs and the patience too. I thought we saw some great ABs from the Domos, the Gurriels, the Pavin Smiths. I really liked the power and the patience that the D-backs offense had today. And then Brandon Pfaadt, I thought had a really good start early. Those first 3 innings, he was cruising, just putting down the Marlins hitters quickly. But then he ran into trouble the 5th and 6th inning. Seemed like he hit a wall, and that's where I thought Torey Lovullo should have helped him out a little bit more. After he gave up that third run, I felt like it was time to pull Brandon Pfaadt. It just felt like one of those moments where he had already lost it. But Torey Lovullo kept him out there, kept him pitching, and I just disagreed with him in that moment. I thought Pfaadt should have been pulled a little bit quicker. And now you look at his ERA back up to 4.08. I feel like Pfaadt's been so good this season, and still at least the traditional peripheral stats tell you he's still not all the way there yet. So my prediction of him finishing top 10 in Cy Young voting in the second half of the season doesn't look like it's going to come to fruition. Paul Sewald continues to be bad in the 9th inning. He has been really good recently, but for some reason, you put him in the 9th, Paul Sewald just crumbles. So put him back in the 5th, the 6th, the 7th inning. Hopefully Sewald goes back to being good. D-backs get back to their winning ways in game 1 against the Marlins. Look for potentially a series win already in game number 2 with Erod on the mound going against Edward Cabrera. And for the D-backs to do that, they're going to need some players to step up with Ketel Marte out. And that's what we'll discuss in segment number 2. But hey, if you're thinking about placing a little wager down on the D-backs money line in game 2 against the Marlins, then the place you're going to want to go is, of course, FanDuel Sportsbook, because you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Plus, you could still do my favorite thing on the app, of course, the same game parlay whenever the D-backs are playing. Give me Jake McCarthy over on total bases. Give me, if it's Zach Gallen or Brendan Pfaadt, the over on strikeouts. And of course, give me right now Adrian Del Castillo RBI. When that three leg hits, it brings a big smile to my face. And if you want a big smile on your face, just visit fanduel.com/lockdown to download America's #1 sportsbook. All right. Let's get back into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. And let's discuss some players that need to step up. With Ketel Marte out, the D-backs offense is going to be in need of a little bit of help. And it's not just Ketel Marte out, of course. We got Moreno out. We got Christian Walker out. Like, the D-backs are down three core pieces, and they're down their MVP, the guy who is running away with second place in the NL MVP voting, Ketel Marte. The D-backs are really going to miss him. He's going on the injured list. Right now, it's a 10-day little stint. Hopefully, he's going to be okay. Still, don't rush Ketel Marte. If he has to miss the rest of the regular season, like, I would be fine with that. As long as he's there for day one of the postseason, I would not worry about Ketel Marte's bat at all. So let's just make sure he's healthy and primed for the playoffs. That's why the D-backs are going to need some players to step up in his absence to make sure we don't rush Marte back. We don't want the offense all of a sudden start struggling. Torlavella looks at it and says, you know what? I got to put my best player back out there despite him being compromised. That is not what we want to see. So what we're going to need is some of the players who are already on this roster to step up in light of our savior, Ketel Marte, going on the injured list. And the first person I want to talk about, it's not really one person, it's more of a group of players. We're going to just need the middle infielders overall to step up. Geraldo Perdomo has already been doing it in the month of August. He has a 130 WRC plus, and that was entering today's game against the Marlins. A 304 average, a 381 OBP, a 429 slugging. Like, Perdomo has already started to pick it up in the absence of a Marte. He's swinging the bat a lot better. I think that patience and play discipline that we always talk about with Domo going back to last season, we're seeing him do that at the highest level right now, at the bottom of the lineup for the D-backs. And of course, what he's been able to do defensively. I think Domo has been able to step up for the D-backs this season. I think he's done a great job of doing what he's asked to do. Domo does his job. I'm looking at the other middle infielders for the D-backs right now in the month of August. Kevin Newman's doing a solid job. 101 WRC plus, 294 average. He's been fine, and we're going to need him to be fine with Marte out. Continue to hit around that 290 average and continue to play solid defense. I would like the strikeout rate to go a little bit down for Kevin Newman. He's around 24% for this month. Maybe raise the walk rate just a little bit because it's at 7.9%, which doesn't seem terrible. But on this D-backs team, it's like third, fourth worst from the bottom in the month of August. So Newman's done a solid job all year for the D-backs. I've actually been very surprised and very impressed with Newman this season. He was someone that I wrote off entering the year. I did not think he had much upside. I thought he was just going to be a veteran that clogged playing time for the Blaze Alexanders or whatever other young, middle infielder we want to throw out there, whether it be a Jordan Lawler or whatever. But Kevin Newman has actually been a positive for the D-backs this season. He's been solid in the month of August. With Ketel Marte going on the injured list, we're going to need more quality Kevin Newman to step up. Then the other guy, he was really good to start this season before going into a tailspin that seemed to have been started by his poor defense. But it would be wonderful if Blaze Alexander once again woke up and joined the offensive party, because we know how his defense has been shaky all year, but he was really good to start the year for the D-backs. His first 19 games started, or his first 22 games overall, however you want to look at it. His first 61 at bats, how about that? Hit a 312 average, a 941 OPS in the months of April and March. It was fantastic to start the season. But as soon as he started with those defensive struggles, it felt like it creeped into his head, and it felt like it bled into his offense, and he has really struggled since then. So it would be fantastic if Blaze Alexander could show us something offensively once again, because I thought to start the year he was really important, such an impact bat. He was a guy that we talked about as the headliner in a lot of these podcasts and crossovers when we talked to other hosts. I remember talking to Jake Mastriani of Locked On Braves, and when we played them the first series of the year, like one of the big points that we talked about going to that series was watch out for Blaze Alexander. He's like the underrated hero of this D-backs team the first 3 weeks of the season, and he has really fallen off since then. So it would be wonderful to see Blaze step up once again with Ketel Marte out. How about Eugenio Suarez? He has been way better since what we saw, those first 60, 70, 80 games of the year. And I just need a little bit more from Eugenio because we knew he had a fantastic July and he's been much improved in August than where he was to begin the year. But his August, I think, could be just a little bit better. He has not been bad this month at all. Don't get it twisted. He has still been solid. A 246 average, a 750 OPS. Like, if you told me those were his numbers for the whole season, I've been like, perfect. That's the Eugenio Suarez we signed up for. But after seeing what he did in the month of July, it would be nice if Eugenio could give us a little bit closer to what he did in July than what he's doing in August. I would take a full season of what he's doing in August if, that was day one, the production we were getting from him. But considering he was so bad the first 2.5 months, and then all of a sudden he became the best player in baseball in the month of July, give us something closer to what we saw in July because with Marte out, the D-backs are going to need that Eugenio Suarez. Right now in August, his strikeout rate is 24%, which is lower than what you would normally see from Eugenio, but his walk rate only 4.5%, not that high. So if we could get that walk rate a little bit higher, I'm actually fine with that K rate for him. But if we could get that walk rate a little bit higher, that OBP is only at 288 for the month of August. Let's get that a little bit higher, and I think that would greatly help this D-backs offense. Then the final guy I want to talk about is a guy that I've talked about a lot as a guy that I need to see step up down the stretch. Lourdes Gurriel, who just continues, seems like he's starting to pick it up a little bit over the last week, but still overall the month of August, the numbers aren't there for Gurriel. Again, these are the stats entering today's game against the Marlins, but an 83 WRC plus in the month of August, a 292 slugging. Like, where has the power gone for Gurriel? No home runs in the month of August with only 2 RBIs. And of course, in today's game against the Marlins, he had no RBIs once again. Where has the run producing production been for Lourdes Gurriel? He, at one point to start the season, was like setting records with how many RBIs he was collecting to begin the year. Like, do you guys remember that? We were like, this is the most RBIs the D-backs players had in their first 15 games since Yeehaw Yuha. Like, we were throwing out so many crazy stats for Lourdes Gurriel to start the season. Literally, this is how Gurriel started his season. 5 RBIs, 1 RBI, 2 RBIs, 2 RBIs. Like, that was his first 4 games of the year, and he had just not been as productive as a run producer since that first month of the season. And so it would be very nice for Gurriel to get back to that because he was so important to what the D-backs did last season, and he's still important to what the D-backs want to do for the rest of this year. So would love to see Gurriel step it up with Ketel Marte out. Now I want to discuss if the D-backs still have a chance of eclipsing 90 wins this MLB season. But hey, if you're looking to play America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, then you're looking to play PrizePicks because with over 5 million active members, it is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stats projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. PrizePicks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, run your game. All right. Let's get back into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. And let's discuss if the D-backs still have a chance to eclipse 90 wins this season. I don't know if you guys feel like that's a far-fetched mark for the D-backs to hit, because it's not something that the D-backs have hit a ton in their franchise's history. It's actually been a mark that's been pretty rare and pretty elusive for this franchise, which might seem kind of crazy because it's not like 90 wins is the toughest thing to hit. Like, yes, you have to be a good team. If you're hitting 90 wins, you're probably a playoff team. And that's probably the issue when looking at the D-backs franchise history, why they haven't hit 90 wins more. Maybe it's because they don't make it to the playoffs that much. I mean, to be honest, just looking at it, just looking at it at a whole, the D-backs franchise history, I mean, they've only made the playoffs 7 times in their franchise's history since 1998. Like, that's not that much, to be honest. They've only made the playoffs 4 times since 2002. They only have one 90 win season since 2012, and that was, of course, 2017, Torey Lovello's first year with the D-backs. D-backs only have 390 win seasons overall since 2002. So this is a franchise that doesn't go to the playoffs a lot. This is a franchise that doesn't even hit 90 wins a lot. And so the idea of the D-backs making it back to the playoffs this year and getting 90 wins, and the fact that they could back-to-back years make it to the playoffs, and then that second year get 90 wins, like, that's actually truly historic for the D-backs. They've only done that one other time in their franchise history. In 2001, they went to the playoffs, they won the World Series, and the very next year, they won 98 games, then went back to the playoffs. That's the only time in D-backs franchise history that they've ever even went back to the playoffs back-to-back seasons. And so for the D-backs to potentially go back to the playoffs back-to-back years this season and also get 90 wins, like, it would truly be a historic season in D-backs franchise history. And I definitely think it's possible, but let's lay out the case to see if you guys think it's possible for the D-backs to do that, because we know Arizona has the best record in baseball since June 1st. And if you look at their winning percentage during that time, they've won about 65% of their games, 64.7% of their games. They've won since June 1st. They've gone 45 and 24 during that time. So they've won about 65% of their games. And so if you look at the D-backs remaining amount of games and give it the same winning percentage that they've had since June 1st, which is 65%, then the D-backs will finish right around 93 games. So if you think the D-backs can do what they've been doing since June 1st, then the D-backs are definitely going to smash 90 wins this season. But when you consider the injuries that the D-backs have dealt with this year, I don't know if it's truly feasible to believe this team can win 90 games with the Walker, the Moreno, the Martes all out right now. Walker might be out for 2 weeks. Marte is going to be out a week and a half at the very least. Moreno could still be out another month. We still need Monty and Kelly and Gallen and Erod all to get healthy. Like, they're all pitching right now, but all of them to get 100% health and look like the best versions of themselves. And we're just not getting that right now. So there's a lot of question marks with this D-backs team right now in terms of if they can even get to that 90 win mark. And it's not just this team. You also have to think about the other teams in baseball, because the D-backs, in terms of strength of schedule for the rest of the year, still the 7th toughest remaining schedule in baseball. They still have to face the Dodgers, the Padres, the Brewers twice, the Mets, the Red Sox, and the Astros. And yes, you might think those are good teams. Maybe you don't think all those teams are like World Series contenders or the best teams in Major League Baseball. But if you look at the best records in baseball since June 1st, 6 of the 8 teams are the teams I just mentioned. The Dodgers, Padres, Brewers, Mets, Red Sox, and Astros are 6 of the 8 best records in baseball since June 1st. Astros second best, Padres third best, Mets fourth best, Brewers sixth best, Dodgers seventh best, and then Red Sox eighth best. Of course, D-backs have the best record during that time. Twins are the only other team. And so the D-backs are seeing the best teams in baseball from the last 2 months over the next 6 weeks of the season. And so this is not going to be easy for Arizona. They're literally about to face the hottest teams in the sport to end the year. So for them to get to 90 wins, it's not going to be easy at all. And I'm very curious to see how the D-backs are actually going to play as we get closer to the end of the season. Like, how is the front office going to manage their team with the injuries that you have? Are you going to maybe try to keep those guys rested to end the season? Like, are you actually going to try and take your foot off the gas a little bit in terms of health, or because of health? Like, you're trying to be more cautious with your players, not overexert them, at the end of the season, not put too much pressure on them at the end of the season. So I am curious to see how the D-backs are going to treat their players as we get closer to the year. Or are we still going to be full throttle, all foot on the gas? Or we're going to be, let's take it a little bit easier and just make sure our guys are healthy entering the playoffs, because we already see how this team is being affected without their best players. Marte goes down. The offense all of a sudden is a little bit more hit or miss. Defensively behind the plate without Gabriel Moreno, we just saw against Tampa Bay Rays, like the D-backs just set like their franchise record for stolen bases allowed in the series. Like, that does not happen with Moreno. Walker, not having him at the plate or at first base, very devastating to what the D-backs want to do. So if I was a betting man, when I think about the injuries to this team already and the fact that guys are still trying to get back up to 100% health, and when I think about the D-backs strength of schedule and the other teams in the National League, the fact that the Dodgers and Padres have been so hot, I just think there's a lot of factors working against the D-backs right now. Yes, they've been the best team in baseball the last 2 months, but can they continue that insane winning percentage that they've been on for another month and a half? I don't know if I believe that's very plausible. I would bet the under on the D-backs for 90 wins. I think they'll probably finish around 89 wins, be within a couple games of the Dodgers in the NL West, either have the top or second best wildcard spot in the National League. I think that's a perfect season for the D-backs. Yes, the D-backs want the division. Yes, they want the top wildcard spot, but I think they care more about having this team healthy entering the postseason, especially after how they mismanaged Ketel Marte. I think this could be a team that's super cautious with their players down the stretch. So I would bet the under on 90 wins for the D-backs for the rest of 2024. Now that's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back tomorrow for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy, deuces.